Good morning, children. Shillong, Itanagar, Tamil Nadu. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Yes. Monday morning. How are you, children? Good. Yes. Few people have turned out at Shillong. Why? What happened? Where are the rest of the people? Outside the class? Yes. Okay. Fine. Ask them to come and join fast. Yes, Tamil, good morning. Okay. How was your test? How was your test? Where is CC-Pur? Chuachandpur Center. You did not turn up for test? Did not turn up for test, is it? It was good? Okay, nice. Very good. Let me see the marks. The marks are going to tell the whole story. Okay, so we finished the chapter in the last class. That was 4th chapter of your NCERT class 12. That was reproductive health. We finished with that chapter in the last class on Wednesday, isn't it? And we are supposedly going to start a new chapter today, that is evolution. So I gave you some questions also from human reproduction, that is chapter 3. Were you able to do those questions? Yes. Children, do you try them? Did you? Shillong is busy in gossiping. Yes, Shillong. The class has started. Yes. So did you do those questions? Do you have any doubts from them? Let me know. Or you haven't started till now. Because today I will be giving you a new question paper from reproductive health. That was your assignment for last week. Yes. See, if you're not doing them on time, you will be in trouble at the end of the day. Let me be very clear. The forms are going to come by December, I guess, first 15 days only. And if you are not having a good pace, you are not solving out questions, as soon as they are done in the class, you will be in problem. That's very, very realistic thing. I won't be keeping you in dark. I won't be telling you sweet, sweet things. That's reality. You have to do those questions and keep on doing those questions at the end of every chapter. So as soon as my chapter is ending, I am trying to give you questions. And if you are not performing them, you are not doing them, you will be in trouble. That's for sure. Please. You're doing it. It's good. But you don't turn up for... Not for an assignment, finish assignment, but I will be giving you today a new assignment. So you are piling up your work. Please, be on time. That will be beneficial for you only. I will be happy to get your result, that's all. You will be selected, you will be a doctor. I will be a happy person, happy teacher. Isn't it? Please. Do those questions and make sure you are going to ask those questions. If any, in case of trouble, you're going to ask us also. Okay. So let us start a new chapter, that is evolution. So what is evolution? The first and foremost thing. This B29 chapter. Just after genetics. Genetics will be done by Vineet sir. He will be doing genetics. So what is evolution? So I will be dividing this chapter into 3 phases. The first phase will be origin of earth. And then we will talk about origin of life. And then we will talk about how the life evolved. That is evolution of life. So we will be doing this chapter in 3 different phases. The first phase would be origin of earth, the second will be origin of life, and third would be evolution of life. Yes. So this will be my first phase, this will be second phase, third phase. Ah, yes. Yes, Shillong? Yes. Stop chit chat, please, and concentrate on in the class. Yes, children. The girl in the front row. What is so interesting, huh? Meeting after one day, after Saturday, isn't it? The whole Sunday was a break, so you have lots of things to discuss, is it? Yes, children, please pay attention. This is an important chapter, and yes, this is very nice chapter. This is a story. This whole chapter is a story, and what we do in a story, what we do in movies, if you miss a single scene, you will be obviously missing out the storyline. So this is whole storyline. So you have to be with us from the starting till the end. This is a very interesting chapter. Many times we confuse it with a boring chapter. It is only texty. But yes, if you just make a very good start and go with the flow, this is very, very interesting chapter. This will tell you about how we have appeared on the earth and how from a unicellular organism, or you can say non-cellular organism, non-cellular cell, we have ended up in a multicellular human being. That is the highest evolution we have, isn't it? So this is a very good story. Just pay attention. That will be very, very good. So what is evolution basically? If you try to define it, evolution is basically the history of life forms on earth. So whatever life forms have appeared on the earth, the whole history process, the whole process that how they have appeared, how they have evolved, all those things, they are coming under what? They are coming under evolution. So when you talk about universe, you must have been wondering that the universe is so big and we are measuring those stellar distances. Stellar distances means the distances present outside the universe. So we are measuring those stellar distances in light years. Let me talk about origin of life, which is a very unique event. In the history of universe. So origin of life, Mars, we are going to Mars also, we are searching life on Mars also, and that is the basic reason that why, because we want to study that how life originated. So if we find a single life signal over there also, we'll try and understand how life evolved on Earth. The same pattern is followed here or not. So Earth is, if you consider its size, is almost a speck. Speck means a small particle compared to the universe. And if you follow your NCERT, your universe is 20 billion years old. If you follow your NCERT. But you follow the latest articles, this was the data before 1971, but if you follow the latest articles, they tell that the universe is only 13.8 billion years old. So if you fall into some kind of discussion, don't stick on 20 billion because it is very old data. The NCERT has not updated itself. But if it comes in NEET, you have to write 20 billion itself. But if it is asked somewhere outside, if you talk about, you fall into discussion, you talk about these things, you have to tell them that it is 13.8 billion years old. That might be correct in the forthcoming editions of the NCERT, but yes, now it is not in the NCERT now. So you know that what are the components of the universe? Use clusters of galaxies. Comprise the universe. So the huge cluster of galaxies, how did they form? The main concept behind them was Big Bang theory. Isn't it? The Big Bang theory, there was a huge explosion. What Big Bang theory refers to? It refers to a huge explosion. So we all know this was the physics part. And then what we did is attempts to explain the origin of universe. So Big Bang theory is has been the most supported reason the formation of universe took place, because of which. So attempts to explain the origin of universe. And because of this Big Bang, what happened is all the gases, they were in cluster, they were in mass, they started to explode. They exploded with a Big Bang. That means they started, just to imagine about a bomb, it exploded and all its particles, it started to fly away from each other. Till now, they are having the same motion, they are having the same acceleration in which they are moving apart from each other, away from each other. And that is how we calculate the age of the universe. That was the reason. That is how you calculate 20 billion years old. You cannot have a half-life data for that, because you know half-life period is very less. So to calculate that, what we do is that we use this particular data, that is universe is 20 billion years old. How did we come to know this? The first and foremost thing what we did is we calculate the acceleration with which the things are moving away from each other, and we assumed all those physics and all those data, compiled them, and then followed that yes, it was 20 billion years ago that the explosion started to happen. So this was the basic thing, and till now the acceleration is thought to be the same, and universe is a never-ending era of expansion. So this is the basic reason why we tell that universe is still expanding, it is dynamic. That is because of the Big Bang that took place somewhat 20 billion years ago. Now universe expansion started, and gradually what was our interest, the temperature came down, because it was a hot ball of gases. So after explosion or after expansion, the temperature started to come down. This I am talking about Earth. Hydrogen and helium, this is what is the story of Earth. Hydrogen and helium were the first gases. Just try to remember the sequence. The sequence is very important. So first of all, temperature came down and hydrogen and helium were formed sometimes later. And then these gases, they started to condense. Because of the gravitation. And what they formed? Formed galaxies. of present universe. So all the galaxies that we have now, they are basically formed as a result of the gravitation. So one of the reasons how our Earth formed was the same. Now, the Earth, following this all processes, was formed somewhat 4.5 billion years ago. So, Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago, so long time. Yes, Itanagar, Shillong, Tamilong, are we clear up to this? Yes, children. Are we clear? Yes, Itanagar. What about you, child? Are you clear? Who is present at Itanagar and Tamilong Center? Who are present? Please write your name. Tamilong and Itanagar. Who are present? Okay, it's Looney. Just pardon me if I am pronouncing it wrong. Okay. And at Itanagar, are you clear? Did not answer anything? Okay. So I'm just, let me know if in case anything is not clear, I'm proceeding. We copied up to this? All of you? And how many students are present at Shillong Center? How many of you are there? Okay. It's okay, don't be sorry, Itanagar. Okay, fine. But it does not seem to be 16. Is it really? Okay. The classroom is very dark and there are few students sitting at the back. I'm not able to see them actually. Okay, fine. So what do you say? There was atmosphere on the early Earth, yes or no? Okay, Nabam. Was there atmosphere on the early Earth? So if your question comes to you, was there atmosphere on the early Earth? So you have to say there was no atmosphere on the early Earth. So as soon as the Earth was formed, we did not have atmosphere at that particular time. So atmosphere formation was also one of the processes that our Earth had to go. So there was no atmosphere in the early Earth. Moving ahead. So next thing is what? How did the atmosphere appeared? Since it was no. So what we have is water vapor. We have methane. We have CO2. We have ammonia released from the molten mass. So the molten mass started to release some of the important gases, some of the important things that was a precursor for formation of the atmosphere. And what were they? That was water vapor, it was methane, it was CO2, and it was NH3. So these four gases were formed in order to form the early atmosphere. So this was the process through which we had atmosphere, we had the initiation for the early atmosphere, but till now we did not have ozone. So let's see how ozone appeared. So first and foremost, the water vapor, what you study is, since water did not appear now, so we had water vapor only. So this water vapor was broken by UV rays. So UV rays were able to break this water vapor into H2 gas and oxygen. That is H2, it started to escape in the atmosphere and there was formation of oxygen. This was the early atmosphere, how it started to appear, how it started to form. So we have what? We have now oxygen, but this oxygen is not present in the free form, it is not present in the lower part of the atmosphere, but it is present in the particular layer called as stratosphere. Now what we have is, we have oxygen combining with NH3, that is ammonia, and CH4 to give what? To give two important things, that is water and CO2. So now we have water and CO2 carbon dioxide formation at a very, very high speed. How? By combining oxygen with NH3 and CH4. Following this, what happened is the ozone layer formed. And the water vapor that went up, it condensed and came down. Started to rain and formed oceans. Now this is of our interest now. Formed oceans, and in these oceans the life appeared. When did life appear? 500 million years after the formation of Earth. So once the Earth formed, after 500 millions of Earth formation, the life started to appear on the Earth. So when did exactly life appeared? We can say life appeared 4 billion years ago. So it should be either, because Earth originated 4.5 billion years ago, so we can just subtract 500 million years from 4.5 billion years and we will get how much? We will get 4 billion years. So life appeared either 4 billion years ago, or you can say otherwise it appeared 500 million years ago. So this was basically the appearance of life. Now we will talk about what kind of life it was, how the life started to evolve, all these things. But yes, this was the first signal, first sign that yes, life has started to appear on the Earth. That was 500 million years ago. We will talk about the typical type of life form after some time. But yes, the next question what comes in our mind is, the next part will be what? The next question what comes in our mind is, where did life appear from? Yes. Can you help me out? Where did life appear from? Yes, Nabam, Looney, Shillong, Yes. Priyanka, can you help me out with this answer? Priyanka has come. Where is Priyanka? Nowhere? She has not come? Okay. Yes, Balaji, you have come? Where is Balaji? Have you come? Present. Can you answer this question? Where did life come from? Life appeared, no doubt, but where did it appear from? Yes, anybody can answer? Yeah, it was in ocean, it appeared in the ocean, but where did it come from? Where was the precursor? Where was the pre-form of the life? Yes. Anybody? South Africa. Why South Africa? Why? Because they have a very good cricket team. Is it? Why South Africa? Why South Africa? Shillong? Because they play very good cricket. Is it? Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, fine. Yes, Nabam, any idea? Luni, any idea? No idea? Okay, let's see. So there were many stories about it, isn't it? There were many stories about it. Like if you talk about Bible, they will be telling you different story. If you talk about Quran, if you talk about Vedas, they will be telling you a totally Puran, that is Puran. They will be telling you a totally different story that would be a religious point, isn't it? As a human being, we know those points also, but as a scientist, we have to develop some other views also. So what we have is actually, we have many different theories that started in the initial period. Some people started to tell that life was created by God, life was created by some special powers. So this was said to be the theory of special creation. Like you talk about that the different life forms were created as such. God created everything, God created all these species, and obviously all these species that were created from God, by God, were existing at the time of creation. During this time, all the time they were constant. This was the theory of special creation, that life was created by God. Isn't it? What is Bible, Quran, Puran, they are all religious point of view are teaching us. So they tell that life was created by special powers. I will not write God, but I will write special powers. Obviously, special power means God. It is supernatural powers, the special powers, those factors were able to create life, theory of special creation. Then we thought about, okay, let's think that there were some spores. So some people are of that idea also. This we call as theory of panspermia, that spores of life were spread on many planets, and Earth was one of them. So it was basically life came into existence from a small spores, and that was all spread in different planets, and Earth was one of them, and life started to originate on all those planets, including Earth. So this theory was actually not very supported. The reason being that if you talk about meteorites that come and enter into Earth's atmosphere, because of friction, the meteorites, they start to burn. You must have noticed. That is, meteorites and all those things. Meteorites, they have a burning part. They start to burn as soon as they enter the atmosphere of the Earth. So this was the same thought process for spores of life as well. Because if spores of life, they are able to cross the atmosphere, they will face a friction. And because of that friction, they will not be able to exist. And thus, life cannot come from other planets. This was basically supported by theory of panspermia, and we disapproved about it, and we do not like this theory. Then we talked about something that is theory of abiogenesis. Abiogenesis means means absent, bio means life. That is, they talk about spontaneous generation. Or in simple terms, they wish to say that life originated from non-living things. Okay, so there were many stories about it. At this point of time, if you think about those stories, you will find them funny. But yes, at that point of time, we did not have any much options. We did not have much thought process, and we started to believe in theory of spontaneous generation. As in that, what people used to think at that time is that fishes, they come along with rain, they fall down on the earth along with the rain. So when it rains, the fishes also rain down. Okay, it would have been so exciting if it really happened. And frogs, they appeared from muds, that is mud, it forms frogs. Moreover, the rats, they were formed by wheat. If you keep wheat grains in cupboard closed for a long time, they will appear into rat. So these were the theories that people actually at one point of time, they started to believe into, because obviously they don't have much proofs, they did not have much options. So their theory of abiogenesis or spontaneous generation was followed up to a very, very long time, and many scientists having good background that we consider as father of biology also, Aristotle, he was also one time supportive of theory of abiogenesis or spontaneous generation. So this theory was supported by Aristotle. So you can understand how things need a practical approach. If you don't have a practical approach, you start to believe in certain kinds of things that don't have scientific basis. So how can fishes rain down along with the rain, isn't it? So that is what is basically what we started to think, that this cannot happen, and we started to have a practical approach, and we started to think about a new thing, that is theory of biogenesis. Now this was something which was given by Louis Pasteur. So Louis Pasteur, the same person who did great miracles, who did great things for us in bio, the same person, Louis Pasteur, he gave the theory of biogenesis. Now what else Louis Pasteur is responsible for? Let's see. Apart from theory of biogenesis, he gave germ theory of disease. That is, disease happens because of germs. He is also responsible for one of the best techniques known for preservation of milk and its products, that is pasteurization. And so theory of biogenesis, what tells is, this was basically, what we can think about is that Louis Pasteur disapproved theory of spontaneous generation and said that life comes from pre-existing life. So a rat will come from rat, a fish is going to come from fish, a frog is going to come from frog. This kind of theory was given by Louis Pasteur. That is what? That is, in single line, life comes from pre-existing life is the basic underlined message from the theory of biogenesis. That is, life is going to come from where? Life is going to come from the pre-existing life. Whatever life forms we are going to have earlier, that is only going to give the next life forms. So we talked about many things. We'll talk about a small experiment. Now, there were people who started to support Louis Pasteur's theory. Did you copy up to this, everybody? Yes. Looney Nabum, all the children at Shillong. Did you copy? Yes. Okay, very good. Shillong. What about you children? Things are clear? Are the things getting clear, or do you need any explanation on anything? Okay. Senapati, okay. Good morning, Senapati. How are you? Did you give your test on Saturday? Okay. Yes, now this theory of biogenesis was supported by, let's see who are the people who supported the theory of biogenesis. This was, obviously, Louis Pasteur was the pioneer. Apart from him, we have Reddy and we have Splanzani. So these were three people who supported the theory of biogenesis, and exactly they proved it with experiment, because without experiment we don't have anything in biology. So what did Louis do? Let's see. Louis Pasteur did a small experiment called as swan neck experiment. What was the part of this experiment? He had a small flask and its neck was in the form of the neck of a swan. I hope you must have seen a swan. That is very famous for its fishing and obviously patience. So we have a swan neck like this. Yes, everybody, just pay attention. So what we have is, we have a swan neck. This is a swan neck. So he created this special flask called a swan neck flask, and he put it on fire. Obviously he put something inside it. What was it? He filled sugar plus yeast extract into this and put it on fire, just to have, obviously there will be wire gauze also, but yes. Something happened and my all written part, it went away. So let me rewrite it again. Louis Pasteur, Reddy. These are the drawbacks of technology. Technology is good, but not always. So had it been a board, I wouldn't have this problem, isn't it? So Pasteur, what he did was, he did a swan neck experiment to explain all these things that were taking place. So he took a small flask that was pretty difficult to draw, this flask, and that only disappeared. Okay. So this flask has a long neck just like the neck of the swan, and it had what? It had sugar plus yeast extract. Let's boil this flask. This is a Bunsen burner. Obviously we need a tripod stand, we need a wire gauze, everything. But you know, we'll just do it quickly, boil it quickly. And this is basically what things he did was, he did two of them. Just make out. It's two copies. And then for one, what he did was, one of them, he let it remain like this, as such. That is a long neck. And for the other, he broke the neck. Can you see? The neck is broken. Now the one in which the flask, the one which had intact neck, it had no life forms, or we could say no microorganisms. After a few days. So there was no sign of life in the flask 1, let's say. But in flask 2, which had its neck broken, there were microorganisms seen in that flask. So this clearly shows that there must be a situation where the microorganisms were able to pass through the broken neck of the swan neck flask and enter in the broth or the yeast plus sugar extract and started to grow over there. But in case of the first flask where the neck was intact, what must have happened, it's a long passage, it's curved one, so the microorganism will take some time, or you can say it was not able to pass through the whole pathway and enter in the system, that was the system basically the broth and the yeast extract, and this was the main reason that why the first flask with whole of the swan neck had no life forms, whereas the second one it had life forms. So this was the Pasteur's swan neck experiment. So with this idea, Pasteur was able to convince people that yes, life originated from pre-existing life, that there must be a life form excuse me, there must be a life form that was responsible for origin of other life forms. This was supported by these people. Similarly, Reddy also performed an experiment which was basically the meat experiment. He kept 3 beakers with boiled meat pieces. The first beaker was left uncovered, the second was covered with a wire gauze, and third was covered with a muslin cloth. The first 2 beakers, they had small maggots developing in them after a few days, where the third beaker, which was not having any wire gauze or was not left uncovered, it was covered properly with a muslin cloth, did not show any life form. So this was clearly seen that yes, there must be flies in the surrounding of the beaker which started to lay eggs in the uncovered or covered with wire gauze meat, and that those eggs, they started to develop into the larva, that is the maggots. So this was the whole story, which was actually very, very experimentally supported, and we finally thought of that yes, we got an idea that life comes from pre-existing life, the same egg and hen story. Okay, are we clear up to this? So which is the most expected, most accepted theory? If a question comes to you, it will be theory of, that is, life comes from pre-existing life, theory of biogenesis. Are we clear? Did you copy everything up to this? Yes, tell me, yes, no, have you copied? Shillong, Senapati, Tamilong. Okay. But now next question was waiting. What was the next question? Talked about theory of biogenesis. The next question. Now, life comes from pre-existing life, But where did the pre-existing life come from? Next question what we have now is, that one thing was clear, that life comes from pre-existing life. But where does the pre-existing life comes from? So next question to be sorted is what? That yes, life came from pre-existing life. Okay, that is Murgi and Anda wala story. But where did the first Murgi come from? Or where did the first egg came from? That was the new thing. That where did the first pre-existing life, obviously the first life form, it came from. So there was a new theory about this. It was given to be theory of chemical evolution. The theory of chemical evolution. So what does the theory of chemical evolution say? First of all, let's see who gave these theories. There were two people behind this theory. It was Oparin and it was Haldane. Oparin was a Russian and Haldane was an English. Yes. Then later onwards, Haldane decided to settle in India itself. So this was basically one theory given by two people, that is Oparin and Haldane. What they thought, they independently gave these theories. Oparin worked on this theory in the year 1928 and he was working this on 1929. So they started to see that yes, both of us are having the same kind of views. So why not combine and give a single theory, that is theory of chemical evolution. So what does theory of chemical evolution say? That is basically the organic molecules. The organic molecules say, biomolecule chapter, remember we had a list of organic molecules, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids. So what they had an idea is that the organic molecules were from inorganic components. So it's something inorganic, something that was in the inorganic section. Remember inorganic and organic? All these things we have done long back. The organic molecules were formed from the inorganic components. So the inorganic components were basically responsible for the creation of organic molecules. So let's write down a simple equation. The inorganic components form the organic molecule. But yes, it's not that easy as we are assuming the things to be. It must be a difficult process. Obviously, there must be certain typical changes taking place at the time on the earth, and because of those changes, we had this particular conversion of inorganic molecules or inorganic components. Inorganic components means something like CH4, NH3, isn't it? H2, H2O, vapor. So these things were responsible to form organic molecules like amino acids, proteins, lipids. So this was a whole process which was very, very time taking. It is not that short that we are writing over here and then putting an arrow. So this is not that easy. This must not have been that easy. It was a very, very complicated process, and there were different factors involved in this process that led to the conversion of the inorganic components into organic molecules. We're talking about organic molecules, not life. We're talking about cell. We're talking about organic molecules now. So this was basically the theory that was the theory of chemical evolution trying to say. That is, inorganic components gave rise to organic molecules. This was proposal from Oparin and Haldane. That is, when we combine the inorganic components together, they will convert into what? They will convert into organic molecules. But they did not experimentally prove it. We'll have a small break and we'll see the experimental proof that who did this experimentally prove this thing and how all these story happened. This is going to be again very interesting. Okay, just have a small break, 5 minutes. This was a big story. We'll finish. After the break, let's see how organic molecules turned out. Yes. Children, let's resume. Are we back? Yes. Nabam, Luni, Shillong Center, Senapati. What is going on, Shillong? Yes, please, please. Settle down. Yes, yes. 3 cheers. Settle down. Yes, let's resume. Okay. So what were we talking about? We're talking about some special things that turned inorganic components into organic molecules. So I said that yes, oparin and haldane, isn't it? Oparin and haldane, we talked about two scientists, obviously very great people. So oparin and haldane, oparin wrote a book, Origin of Life. Many times this also comes in NEET. So this was a book written by oparin, Origin of Life. Remember, Origin of Species was written by Darwin and Origin of Life was written by oparin. So don't confuse with the strike of origin, don't go and attempt on Darwin. Just keep in mind, Origin of Life by oparin and Origin of Species by Darwin. There were 2 different books, Life and Species. So what basically happened over there? What were the factors responsible? So these factors were obviously investigated by some other person. The person's name is Miller. So we have in 1953. Can you see the time gap? So obviously people need some time for having an experiment to be successful, and then only those experiments are repeated again and again, and finally what we get a good data, that is a good result. So he took a long time, and the person was S.L. Miller. Your NCERT says only Miller, but I would say that is along with Miller there was one more person. Let's give him also credit. This is in old NCERT they talk about Urine Miller, but in new NCERT they talk about only Miller. So there was a scientist called as S.L. Miller. He simulated means created similar conditions. He started to copy. He simulated the condition of primitive earth in laboratory, isn't it? So he was obviously a very intelligent person. He thought about many things, and he thought about the particular factors present at that particular time when the earth was primitive, and he tried to copy those conditions. Simulated means just copy them. Just copied all those particular conditions that were present on the primitive earth, where in the lab. So there is a particular experiment given in your book that's called as the flask experiment, and there were certain things that he kept in mind when he was doing this experiment. So he created what? Electric discharge with what particular things? Let's see. The first and foremost is water vapor. That is then he thought of that yes, there must be water vapor. He added H2 gas. He added ammonia. And he added methane. So let's see. W H A M. The most important noteworthy thing was that at that particular time there was no oxygen present. So what we have is we have a reducing condition, or we can say that at that time the atmosphere was what? The atmosphere was a reducing one. It was not oxidizing like present atmosphere we have. Presently we have oxygen present, and that atmosphere is called as oxidizing atmosphere. So at that time the atmosphere was what? That at that time the atmosphere was reducing one. So what we mixed is, just remember, WHAM gases, WHAM. That is, W is for water vapor, H is for hydrogen, A is for ammonia, and M is for methane. So he simulated the conditions. That means the conditions are not actually present on the earth at this time. He had to simulate it using electric discharge. So what he did was, he mixed all these gases and started to create electric discharge. Obviously at that particular point of time, when the atmosphere was actually undergoing these changes, there were lightning going on. So all the lightnings were simulated by electric discharge. So the lightning was simulated by electric discharge, and all these things were happening at what temperature? At a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius. Quite hot. Very, very hot. Because at the early atmosphere was very, very hot. So we had a temperature of round about 800 degrees Celsius at that point of time. So what Miller did, Miller also copied those conditions. He simulated the lightnings with electric discharge, kept a reducing atmosphere without oxygen, and he mixed the four gases WHAM, that is water vapor, hydrogen, ammonia and methane, at a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius. Please copy. Yes. Done? Shillong, Senapati, Nabam Loni, copied? Everybody? All of you? How many children are there at Senapati Center? Copied? Is it clear? Are we clear up to this? Tell me something, children. Are we clear? Yes, everybody is clear with the idea what Miller was having. So what he did was electric discharge along with four gases, WHAM. This is very important. This often is asked in the exam. Which were the gases? So you have to remember that oxygen was absent. Just write it down over somewhere. The book, oxygen or O2 was absent at that time. And if you talk about the most essential criteria, obviously the most essential criteria is the presence of water. That is why we go and try to find out water on every planet. That if Mars has water, we have used all our resources, obviously all the countries, we're trying to take into account all our resources to find out water, because if water is there, there might be life also. So most essential criteria for life formation is what? Presence of water. So if water is present, Shillong? Things are clear? Now, when all these things were done, when he did all these things, Miller went mixed all the gases at the particular temperature, simulated an electric discharge. And yes, one more thing, the electric discharge was actually made by using an electrode made up of tungsten. Why tungsten? Because at 800 degrees Celsius, many metals will melt down. But tungsten is not going to melt at 800 degrees Celsius also. So they must have standardized the electrodes also. See, such a difficult task. So they selected tungsten electrodes so that it can withstand the high temperature of 800 degrees Celsius, which other metals might not withstand. So this was tungsten electrode used to make the electric discharge. Now what was the overall output of the experiment? Experiment was done, everything was done, but the output, let's see the output. So what he got after the end of the experiment, he observed the formation of amino acids. Formation of what? Formation of amino acids. So you observed formation of amino acids, and if a question comes to you, which amino acids? So you can learn it using, it was GAA. And what is G? It is glycine. A is for aspartate or aspartic acid, and A is for alanine. So they had the appearance of 3 amino acids, that is glycine, aspartate or aspartic acid, and alanine. So these 3 amino acids were formed when the experiment was carried on by Miller. Obviously, so when Miller did, if a question comes, what was the output of the product, final result of Miller's experiment, it would be glycine, aspartate, and alanine. So obviously when you get a data, you also want to have similar kinds of results. An experiment will be only successful when it can be replicated. See, if I am telling, suppose tomorrow, that water is flowing from north to east always. So how can you prove it? So you have to follow a particular consistent study on it, that yes, water flow is always from north to east, it cannot be from west to south or in either directions. So you need to have a consistent data. So what was the next thing? People started to run similar experiments, obviously. That we should also go and find out that if Miller is correct or not. So in similar experiments, people found out formation of sugars, so if you are doing this experiment, you might find out something new. Formation of sugars, formation of, you know what kind of sugars I'm talking about. I'm talking about different monosaccharides, polysaccharides, everything. We have done those chapters. Okay. Nitrogen bases, purine and pyrimidine. Plant pigments, xanthine, chlorophyll, chloroplast, and fats. So people started to find out similar kind of results, and they started to have an idea that yes, life originated from, or we can say, inorganic molecules, components, they gave rise to organic molecules. That is, inorganic molecules like water vapor, hydrogen, ammonia, and methane, under a certain set of conditions, they give rise to what? They give rise to amino acids. They can give rise to sugars. These are organic molecules. So nitrogen bases, pigments, and fats. So this was the whole theory behind the theory of chemical evolution of life. So this was Oparin and Haldane's idea, which was proved by Miller. And finally we had an idea that yes, we have some inorganic molecules that come in particular set of condition, they react and they form what? They form the organic molecules. The story was a bit difficult, but yes, they succeeded in establishing the data very, very practically. So now we have organic molecules. This thing is done. We are now having a science background that yes, the theory of chemical evolution of life is true, but yes, there are further conditions also to be followed. Copied up to this, sorted, clear. Any doubt? Yes. Nabam, Luni, Senapati children, Shillong. Do we have any doubts? Yes. Shillong is busy in gossiping today. I don't know what is the matter. But since 1.5 hours, they are busy. Yes, Shillong. This is serious. Obviously, few people, not everybody. Yes. What is going on, girls? You are ready with the evolution chapter? Shall I conduct a test for you? Is it? Please pay attention in the class. You're coming for a purpose. 3rd May is going to approach very soon. Time flies. Remember this thing. Please, at least be attentive in the class. You can have these things later onwards also. Isn't it? You have dropped a whole year for this. It matters. It matters actually. That you will be feeling it later onwards, not now. Please pay attention, everybody. So we are done with chemical evolution of life. So all these things, so the particular thing, now there was an answer from Shillong where I talked about where life originated from. Where there were many answers, single cell, South Africa, then water was one among them. So obviously these all things, whatever talk about, when you talk about amino acids, when you talk about sugars, nitrogenous base, pigments, fat, all these things were present where? All these things were present. All the organic molecules were present where? Appeared in water. So water was the particular medium where this happened, and this water was no normal water. It was at that time hot, number 1. It was having nutrients. So it was number 1 hot and rich in nutrients. The particular water, so what we called it, since Haldane was the one to propose it, we called it Haldane's hot, since it was having nutrients. So dilute soup. So this all appeared where? This all appeared in Haldane's hot dilute soup. Hot because the temperature was very high. See, we started everything at 800 degrees Celsius. 800 degrees Celsius is a very high temperature. Dilute means it had certain components that were responsible for construction of the organic molecules from the inorganic ones. So obviously those inorganic molecules, organic molecules, they were the nutrients, and we have what? We have Haldane's hot dilute soup where the origin of life took place. Okay, let's see one flow chart. So what was it? It was H2O vapor. It was H2 gas. It was ammonia. It was CH4. So all these things, they started to react together and form what? They formed simple organic molecules. Obviously, there were certain reasons behind this. The reasons being electric discharge, and UV radiations. Simple organic molecules. They accumulated in ocean. And this formed what? This formed hot dilute soup. And these organic molecules, simple organic molecules, they started to show what? They started to show condensation or dehydration. Remember the peptide bond, glycosidic bond, ester bond, all those bonds, they were formed by removal of water. So similar things are going to happen. So amino acids, they are going to remove water molecules between them and start the formation of dipeptide, polypeptide, those chains. We have done those things. So they started to form complex polymer biomolecules. These polymer biomolecules started to assemble, or you can say they started to show certain orientation, certain changes, and form protobions. Protobions means early form of life. Till now life has not appeared. It is not a living cell. Proper cell has not come. These are only precursors of life. So these were the things that were taking place 500 million years after the formation of Earth. So life appeared in this form after the appearance of Earth, immediately after the appearance of Earth. So they took different forms, like some of them they oriented themselves to form liposomes. Some of them they formed microspheres. This is not in your NCERT, but yes, there are many times MCQs you can find out in various books and many exams that do concentrate on these topics. So we have coacervates. So liposomes, they formed what? They formed lipids. They were formed of lipids. They were formed, microspheres were formed over polypeptides. And coacervates, they were obviously polypeptide. So there was nobody to see these things. It was only because of experiments, different people had different ideas. So they all tried to put down the ideas into a flow chart that yes, let's find out what kind of things might have taken place. So there was no proof. So this term microsphere was given by a person, scientist obviously, whose name was Sidney Fox. Your old NCERT, it has this name. Coacervate term was given by or coined by our favorite Oparin. So these were the ideas what people had about the origin of life, that yes, this must be the earlier life form looking like. This must be the particular things. This should have taken place at that particular time. But yes, now this was taking place how many years ago? This took place. This all changes. I talk about protobions and everything. This was 500 million years after formation of Earth. Now these things what we have mentioned, the liposomes, microspheres, coacervates, these were things, we can say this thing happened over here, complex polymer biomolecules. And then assembly section, the protobiont part, this is the basic form of life that we talk about as non-cellular. So this is the first thing to happen, that is organic molecule has assembled. Complex polymer biomolecules have taken place. This was 500 million years after the formation of Earth, or you could say it otherwise, it was 4 billion years ago. So from today 4 billion years ago, only the molecules, the complex biomolecules were formed. Then second change what came is, that is the non-cellular life forms. Non-cellular life forms like liposomes, microspheres, coacervate, these things. So the non-cellular life forms, they had the power of replication. They were not cells, they were non-cellular. But yes, they had the power of duplicating themselves, replicating themselves, creating a copy of themselves. So they had the power of replication, and this power of replication had taken place somewhat very early. That is, took place somewhat, first took place 3 billion years ago. This took place 3 billion years ago. So before this, we have two phases. What are the phases? We have first phase where we have assembly of life forms. Let's see over here. It's complex biomolecules 500 million years ago or 4 billion years ago. And then the second is 3 billion years ago. What we had? We had these particular complexes. That is, it was either liposome, microsphere, coacervate. So these particular forms were appearing 3 billion years ago from today. The third phase is this non-cellular life form is going to convert into a cellular life form. So we'll have the first cellular life form. So non-cellular is now going to have the first cellular life forms, they appeared, and they appeared how many years ago? It was 2000 million years ago. So finally we have now cells. It was but very recent comparatively. The cells started to appear first of all 2000 million years ago. Remember all these things, these are all given in your book. If you have a descriptive study, you will find all these things in your book itself. And this first cellular life form was what? Any idea? Yes, everything living is basically coming from this theory itself. We have this theory as the most accepted theory. Chemical evolution theory is accepted for the origin of life. That is a theory. Yes, let's see what was the first cellular life form. It was an anaerobic chemoheterotroph. So first life form was what? First life form was an anaerobic chemoheterotroph. So now we have enough of supportive materials that we can talk about that. Yes, what was the first cell? Since the atmosphere was reducing, it has no oxygen, it has no photosynthetic activity. So what we have is, we had atmosphere, the first cells to be anaerobic, that is obviously without oxygen. Chemo means chemical energy, heterotroph means depending on others. So now what they are doing is that they are taking the energy from the outside, they are taking the chemicals or breaking down the chemicals of the outside and converting it into ATP for their resourceful living. So now the first life form was what? You have to learn this. The first life form was an anaerobic chemoheterotroph. Yes. Are we clear up to this? Everybody? Yes, Shillong, you got your answer. Itanagar, Senapati, Tamenlong, are we clear? Any doubts? Yes, children. Any doubts? No? So the anaerobic chemoheterotrophs, they derive their energy from where? They derive their energy from the organic compounds. Now you know what are organic compounds, isn't it? Organic compounds like proteins, amino acids, we talk about carbohydrates, nucleic acids. So what they are trying to do is that they are trying to break down the organic compounds, and when ATP, obviously you know when you are breaking up a bond, there is release of huge amount of energy, and that energy is used by an anaerobic chemoheterotroph. So they are breaking the bonds present outside in the organic compounds, and they are deriving their energy for their living. So this is how the end of the whole evolution, the origin of life took place. So we covered two topics over here. The first was origin of Earth. We did a whole thing, Big Bang theory and all those things. And then gases, they started to settle down. So we did origin of Earth, and then we talked about origin of life. This is done. Okay, clear everybody? Now we will talk about the evolution of life. How did life evolve? So the first cellular life form has appeared. It has come into existence. It is a anaerobic chemoheterotroph. Now how did that chemotroph, the anaerobic chemoheterotroph, managed to undergo different changes, to differentiate, to show variations, and then it started to form different life forms that were obviously the prokaryotes, the eukaryotes, and eukaryotes also, you know, some must have taught you in biology classification. There's a very, very big kingdom. There is huge number of things, huge number of options that might have existed during that time. So as a consequence of this, we have the evolution of life. The next thing what we will have is the evolution of life. So we are clear up to this, everybody? Sorted? Clear? So how is this chapter? Interesting, boring? Yes. Centers? Interesting or boring? Tell me. Boring? Yes. Interesting. Oh, Nabam. Nice. Very good. Okay. Shillong? Itanagar? Senapati? Senapati joined us late. So they have missed some excitement, I know. No radiation. See, there are different theories, and radiation is one of the factors that involves mutation, that is talking about evolution, isn't it? So radiation might be there, but we cannot talk about that, yes, radiation took place and because of that we are having evolution of living things, isn't it? Radiation must be one of the factors that have taken place, that might have taken place, that resulted in evolution or mutation. That is the main thing. Okay. Got it? Okay, so let's proceed. Let's have the next thing. So everything originated in water. That must be clear, isn't it? Now these all things are in water. Whatever you're talking about. When you're talking about anaerobic chemoheterotroph, that is also in water. Everything is in water. Fine? Now first thing, they are all in water. The life will start to come on land sometime later. Sometime means obviously millions of years. After that, not so interesting, not so boring, but you have to do it because you have questions coming from this chapter. Okay, fine. So let's talk about next thing. So now we have talked about theory of chemical evolution, which is now well accepted, and we have what? We are having these particular life forms which are now going on, which are starting to undergo these cellular life forms will undergo what? Will undergo the phases of evolution. So now let's have the evolution of life form, the next topic. We'll do some questions on this tomorrow. Whatever I have taught you, go back home and study it, and we'll do some MCQs based on this tomorrow. We'll start with MCQ only. So we have evolution of life forms, a theory, next thing. So the whole concept started with what? The whole concept started with theory of special creation. Remember, people talking about special powers. That was having three basic connotations. Connotations means three basic ideas, three basic guidelines. That these are the major points of this theory. So three basic major ideas from this theory was, number one, living organisms are created as such. So whatever living organisms you have now is, they were created as such. The first thing. Number two, we have is diversity was always same since its creation and will be in future also same. So if God created, suppose, for example, God created 300 species, it always will be 300, was 300, is 300 and will be 300. That is what is the theory of special creation has an outlook. And the most important thing, they considered the earth to be only 4,000 years old. So they talked about earth, yes, but they told that earth is what? Earth is only 4,000 years old. These were the particular theories, particular points of theory of special creation. So living things were created as such. You know who created? Obviously God created as such. So God came and He created all these species, and those species what He created, they were same, they are same and will be same in future also. And these all things happened on earth which was formed only 4,000 years ago. So this theory was actually accepted. People actually accept these theories. Obviously as a human being we also somewhere have this particular theory in our mind, but yes, as a biology student we have to accept practical approach. That is very, very clear. We have believe in God. Don't think that if you are following this, you don't believe in God, you don't have faith in God. We do have faith in God, but yes, we have to sort out practically also some things. So what we did is, these were challenged in 19th century. So before 19th century, people were happy with these things, that okay, living organisms were created by God, diversity was similar, and earth is only 4,000 years old. These all things were very much happily accepted, but then in 19th century, these theories were challenged. And who challenged? Yes, anybody? Yes, children. Who challenged? Any idea? Who was the one who challenged these things? Yes, Nabam, Luni, Senapati children, Shillong children, anybody who challenged? Yes. Becky, can you answer who challenged? Yes. Becky is there? Can you answer who challenged this theory? No, nobody. Come on, you know that person. He must be your favorite in evolution chapter. Yes. Waiting. Why it is taking so long? He is your favorite in evolution. When you talk about evolution, you have to talk about him. We cannot leave evolution without his name. So it was challenged by Charles Darwin, none other than, yes, very good Shillong. This was challenged by Charles Darwin, and what Darwin did was he started a voyage, he started a trip, he started a long trip what was his ship name? HMS Beagle, around the world. So he took a ship and started to go around the world, and when he was going across, obviously many places, he came across one particular place that was called as Galapagos Island. So this Galapagos Island holds much of importance, and he observed something unique. What was his observation? He observed that all the existing species, means all these species which are existing presently, are similar to those which are either extinct or which exist today. Means if you see a bird, okay, that bird must be similar to an organism that was existing in the past, obviously which is extinct now, or it will be similar to an organism which is existing now. So what we have is that the idea what we have now is that there is gradual evolution of life forms. So life evolved from the life forms which existed earlier. So it must be a bird A which actually evolved into bird B. Bird A was actually not able to cope up with the environment, it got wiped off. Now bird B will be similar to a bird C that is existing now. So what we have is, we have a very, very good relationship that shows that there is gradual evolution. This shows a gradual evolution. So this was the main point of Darwin. He wanted everybody to associate with this idea that there is gradual evolution of life forms. This was his book, Origin of Species, conveying to us. And why is this gradual evolution? Why did this gradual evolution took place? These gradual evolutions were because of obviously variations. In what? In the characteristics. So the gradual evolution was brought about, but because of what? Because of the variations in the characteristics. And what kind of characteristics? Yes. What kind of characteristics? The characters that enable the organism to survive in a different climatic condition. Obviously, food and physical conditions. So when all these factors they change, when these factors, that is obviously what we have factors, which factors do we have? The climate, the food, the physical conditions. When these factors they change, and those organisms which have the variations to cope up with the changing characters, they will be showing what? They will be showing variations, and they will be responsible for gradual evolution. For example, for example, suppose the temperature of the earth starts to increase gradually. So all those organisms which can cope up with the changing temperature, that is, they have the particular tendency to cope up or to manage with the changing temperature, they will be showing adaptations. They will be showing survival. And those who are surviving, they will be leading to gradual evolution. So basically what things we have now is, first of all, Charles Darwin, he started a voyage, and then he reached Galapagos Island. And he observed something interesting, that whatever species are existing, either they are similar to the extinct ones or they are similar to already existing species. Next, this shows what? This shows a gradual evolution, that yes, life forms have appeared gradually and gradually from the pre-existing life forms. From the bird A, there was bird B, there will be bird C. This is the gradual evolution. Then the evolution was because of what factors? This was because of variation in the characters. What kind of characters? The characters that enable an organism to survive in a changing climatic condition, plus food condition, plus physical condition. Clear, everybody? Let me know. And what about them who are not able to survive? Yes. Who are not able to adapt? The ones which do not have the characters to so if temperature control is not there in any organism, what will be the end factor? They will be ending up in obviously extinction. So if XYZ organism does not have the particular characters to survive, they will be doing what? They will be extincting from the previous population. So this is what is basically we have the idea of evolution. This is the basic idea what Darwin told about. Okay. We'll talk about more theories. We'll talk about the extension of this part. Obviously, we talk about natural selection as a mechanism of evolution in the next class. For now, let me know if we have any problem. Yes, children, just let me know. Up to this, do we have any problem? So this is what is basically Darwin's idea of fittest is going to come. So who is fit, whosoever is fit is going to survive. That is what is the survival of fittest has appeared now. So if an organism is not fit for the changing environment, it will not be able to survive. That we'll be discussing in the next class. Everybody is clear? Nabam, Luni, Senapati children, Shillong children. So tomorrow I will start the class with MCQs. Fine. And then obviously after this section, after break, we'll have some MCQs and continue this chapter. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. So remember, we have to start from fitness of individual tomorrow. The topic will be, just remind me in case it slips out from my mind. We'll start from fitness of individual tomorrow. So we'll continue this topic, fitness of individual, tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, time for lunch. Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Please study and try to solve the assignments that are being given by all the subject teachers, not only in zoology but other subjects also. Fine. See you tomorrow.